safe. On defence, we've welcomed plans for Europe to step up cooperation on capabilities and for the EU and NATO to work more closely together. The UK will always be committed to the defence of Europe. On climate change, this European Council reaffirmed the commitment of the EU and all member states to fully implement the Paris Agreement. The UK welcomes that joint commitment. We discussed the importance of the EU pursuing an ambitious trade policy, delivering jobs and growth. That trade must be fair as well as free, and the UK will continue to play a leading role in pushing for openness in global trade. On migration, I emphasise the UK would continue to play its part in tackling the ongoing migration crisis, which is a challenge for our entire continent. The Council recommitted to a comprehensive approach to the crisis. That means dealing with the drivers of migration while also doing more to stem the flow of migration. This summit focused on the central Mediterranean route, and I confirmed a new UK bilateral commitment of £75 million to meet urgent humanitarian needs while also facilitating voluntary returns of migrants making these treacherous journeys. Finally, after the constructive start to our Brexit negotiations earlier this week, I wanted to briefly set out to my fellow European leaders the UK's approach to giving reassurance and certainty to EU citizens living in the UK. I want all those EU citizens who are in the UK, who've made their lives and homes in our country, to know that no one will have to leave. We won't be seeing families split apart. People will be able to go on living their lives as before. This is a fair and serious offer. It gives those 3 million EU citizens in the UK certainty about the future of their lives, and we want the same certainty for the more than 1 million UK citizens who are living in the European Union. On Monday, I will publish my proposals in full and look forward to reaching an agreement at the earliest possible date. Now, any questions? Yes. I'll take Laura, and I'll come over here.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. BBC News. A year ago today, British voters decided to leave the European Union. Now, you've always said voters gave politicians a clear instruction to control immigration. But under your plans, for nearly another 2 years, as many Europeans as they like can still come to live in the UK, and more up until the point of departure can come and then earn the right to residence. For many voters, do you think that will really sound like taking back control?
I think what voters voted for when they voted to leave the European Union was to ensure that outside the European Union, the United Kingdom could establish our own rules on migration, on movement of people from the EU into the UK. And that is exactly what we will be doing. And as was announced earlier this week in the Queen's speech in the government's programme, forthcoming programme for this 2-year session of Parliament, as well as the repeal bill, which will repeal the European Communities Act, we'll also be introducing a number of other bills which will be reflecting issues that we will be dealing with when we leave the European Union, and one of those will be an immigration bill. James.
James Bates, ITV News. Prime Minister, you used the words fair and serious to describe this offer. Your fellow leaders this morning have used these words: insufficient, incomplete, below expectations, likely to worsen the situation, and only a first step. Are you going to have to go a lot further to get a deal on this?
As I said, I remain of the view that this is a fair and serious offer, and let's be clear about what we're saying. What we're saying is that those citizens from EU countries who have come to the United Kingdom, who've made their lives and their homes in the United Kingdom, will be able to stay, and we will guarantee their rights in the United Kingdom. I think that's a very serious offer. There are some differences between that and the proposal the European Commission put out, and the matter will now go into the negotiations. I've said all along that I wanted this issue of citizens' rights to be one of the first issues addressed in the formal negotiations, and indeed it will be. Faisal.
Prime Minister, when you spoke to EU leaders, what mandate did you bring to them? Do you draw from the election that you have a full majority mandate for leaving the single market and leaving the customs union? Did they believe it? And also, can you clarify something that's emerged from the editor of the Evening Standard, that you blocked an otherwise united cabinet who wanted to offer a unilateral guarantee to EU citizens just after the referendum?
Well, that's certainly, on that last point, that's certainly not my recollection. I've been very clear all along that the issue of citizens' rights should be addressed at an early stage of the negotiations. It will be. It's one of the first issues that the formal negotiations will look at. And as I say, I think we've made a fair and serious offer to all those, confirming and giving reassurance to all those EU citizens living here in the United Kingdom. But I also want to see that certainty, that reassurance given to UK citizens who are living in the European Union. And you wouldn't expect me, as British Prime Minister, to say anything less. And on the question of the mandate, as I have made clear to my European colleagues, if you look at what happened in the general election, over 80% of British voters voted for parties who were committed to the United Kingdom leaving the European Union, and that's exactly what we're going to do. George.
Yeah, George Parker from the Financial Times. Prime Minister, 1 year on from the referendum, it's a very simple question. I wonder whether you can give a guarantee to the British people that Brexit will be good for Britain.
That's exactly what we're working for. And I have every intention of ensuring that we get a good deal for Britain, and that not only will we be able to see a good, new, deep and special partnership with the European Union, but we'll also be able to take opportunities for global Britain to be out there trading across the globe and forging new trade arrangements. And I believe that we will be able to grasp those opportunities. I believe in the British people. I believe in our ability to do this as a country and to see a better future. Now, is Anna Slojewska here? Yes, Anna?
Thank you for the possibility to ask this question. Anna Slojewska, Polish Daily Rzeczpospolita. You had a meeting yesterday with Prime Minister Szydło, and actually the Polish reaction to your offer on citizens' rights was a bit different than the reactions that were quoted by my colleague. Polish side, Polish European Affairs Minister told Polish journalists today that British offer is promising. What was your impression after the meeting? Do you think that Poland, as the country of origin of the biggest number of your citizens in the UK, could be your ally in this? And do you have an impression that for Poland the issue of ECJ is a crucial thing in these negotiations? Thank you.
Well, certainly. I mean, the conversation I had with Prime Minister Szydło actually reflects what you've just said, that we had a very positive discussion about the offer that the UK had made to EU citizens, and indeed other leaders have also reacted positively to me on the offer that we have made. The question of how we enforce the rights that we would be enshrining, as I say, we want to see a reciprocal deal for UK citizens in the EU, but the question of enforcement is, of course, one that will be taken into the negotiations. But from our point of view, these will be enforced, they'll be enshrined in UK law, they'll be enforced through the world highly respected UK courts. And, of course, if this is an aspect of the withdrawal treaty, then it will be enshrined in international law as well. I'll take a couple more, Rob.
Rob Hutton, Bloomberg. Prime Minister, last month you accused some of the people around the table with you today, other EU leaders, of issuing threats, spreading misinformation that was deliberately timed, you said, to influence the outcome of the election. Now, I mean, that's not an allegation that you would have made frivolously. I assume that today you've made some kind of protest about that behaviour, and I was wondering what kind of response you had.
Well, if I could just clarify, Rob, if you recall when I made that statement, it was in response to certain comments that had been made after a dinner that had taken place in Downing Street, which actually didn't involve leaders of other European member states. But I was very clear that what we want to ensure when we go through these negotiations, and this is what we've seen from the start of the negotiations, and it's the atmosphere that we've had today in our discussions, both bilateral discussions I've had with other leaders and collectively around the table. We've had a good constructive start, and we want to continue the negotiations in exactly that way, and that's what we will be doing. Yes. Okay. This will be the last.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. While we've been here during this summit, we've heard some EU leaders speak about maybe Britain staying in the European Union or having a much closer relationship with the European Union than was envisaged in your Lancaster House speech. Are they deluded, or is it possible they've read the result of the general election better than you have?
As I said, if you look at what happened in the election, over 80% of people voted for parties that were committed to respecting the vote that took place a year ago in the referendum, that the United Kingdom will leave the European Union. And I have always, in my Lancaster House speech, in the Article 50 letter, and in speeches and comments in between and after, been very clear that the United Kingdom will be leaving the EU. We will not be leaving Europe. We want a deep and special partnership to continue with the European Union, and we remain committed to playing our role in ensuring Europe's security and defence. Thank you.